well, taking cost cutting to an extreme, a new breed of executives that are going to extremes to save money for the company. Lauren Weber is here to talk about this new breed of executive. It's sort of interesting to see these people really, instead of living it up on their expense accounts, they're really keeping it all very tight. Tell us about this.
Exactly. Well, you know, we think of people who, when they're spending somebody else's money, in some ways it makes rational economic sense to buy the bottle of Chateau Margaux, stay in the five-star hotel, fly business class. And that's the way a lot of people do use their expense accounts. But there are the outliers there who actually go out of their way to save money, even when it's not their own money that they're spending. Some of them are like this in their personal lives, and they just can't transition. You know, it's a habit and they can't break it.
Right.
And for others of them, they're just extremely cognizant of the bottom line.
And you mentioned some of them do this in their personal life as well. So is this something that's coming down from management for a lot of these folks, or that they're going out and doing it on their own and not even really getting a lot of credit in terms of saving the company that much money?
They're usually doing it on their own. And in fact, some of these people I spoke to said that their bosses tell them, take it easy, enjoy yourself, you know, and not just enjoy yourself, but we need you to get to that meeting refreshed, so don't fly coach on a 16-hour flight. You know, take business class so that you can go to your meeting and be ready to, you know, jump in and do business. Many of them said their bosses don't even notice their efforts to save the company money. Some said their bosses just sort of look askance at it. And occasionally there's the boss who actually notices and appreciates it.
And is there any concern from upstairs when they think how clients might perceive some of this? If somebody shows up to a meeting after riding their bike there, is there a worry in their head like, wow, how come the company has to save so much money? Is there an issue there?
Right. Well, I spoke to one person. He's a private equity guy, and he rides his bike to meetings in order to save on cabs when he's traveling to other cities. And I said to him, well, what happens when you arrive at a meeting and you're all sweaty? And he said, well, one of the benefits of being bald is you just throw some cold water on your head and towel it off, and then you're refreshed. He said that his partners felt that there were some quote-unquote perception issues, but you know, for him, he said it's one of the good things that he brings to the table. And if clients don't recognize that he's careful with their money and that they can appreciate that, he said they're missing one of the things that offers a competitive advantage for them.
And are a lot of company executives sort of looking at this as a sort of loyalty in a way, that the people are saying we're going to save the company as much money as we can? I mean, do they get any benefit in terms of their standing in the company?
Not necessarily. You're not necessarily rewarded. I spoke to one video game producer, and he would go to China for his company, and he might spend $2 on lunch rather than unlike his colleagues who would go to a restaurant for foreigners and spend $15 for lunch. And he said, you know, I was hoping that this might result in more trips for me to China, you know, or that I would be valued as an employee because I was clearly, you know, concerned about how I was spending the company money. He actually got laid off in January because his company shut down the operations that he was a part of. It had nothing to do with his spending, but you know, I think he thought that he would be more highly valued, but it often turns out not to be the case.
And I love in your piece you mentioned how one employee actually, instead of, you know, doing some dry cleaning while they were traveling on business, they were washing their clothes in the bathtub and had to really fight for the expense of laundry detergent when they went too expensive.
Exactly. Here he was trying to save the money, the company money, by either washing clothes in the bathtub, or eventually he started going to coin-operated laundromats rather than giving the hotel his laundry to do and being charged 4 times as much. And instead, the accountant called him to question having dryer sheets on his expense report and other, you know, laundry-related expenses. And when he explained, well, you know, would you rather I spent $40 sending my laundry out or spent the $10 on the supplies? The accountant relented, but you know, it was still kind of a fight.
All right. Well, it's an interesting story, and of course, you can read much more about it this weekend. And thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, Lauren.
Thanks for having me.